Eve is the reason you're fat, and in this video, I'm going to tell you why. Yes, Eve from the Garden of Eden. That one. What if I told you your weight isn't a food problem? It isn't a willpower problem. It's not a discipline problem. It's not even a health problem. It's actually an ancient problem. I lost 175 pounds, and in doing so, I had a lot of clarity come in, and I finally understood where my issues with weight, where my problem with weight originated from. And it wasn't in my childhood. It wasn't in my marriage. It wasn't in my circumstances. It wasn't in my sad little story, and I do have one. It was actually from a story that has been running in my body and in your body and in all women's bodies for thousands of years. And it might be the single most important thing I share with you, with other women, because it's the reason for all of this. It's the reason I call my channel, my business, the Eden Shift. So I want to take you back to the very beginning, not your beginning, the capital T-H-E beginning, Eve. The Garden of Eden. You know the story. Stay with me. She was given everything. She was whole. She was enough. She existed in complete abundance. No shame, no hiding, no performance, just her. Fully herself in a garden designed to meet every single need she had. She didn't worry about her body. She didn't even know she was exposed. And then she ate. She followed her curiosity, her hunger, her desire to know more. And ironically, that ability to know more was tied to a piece of food, and a healthy piece of food, if I might add. And what happened when she did that? What was the first thing she was told? You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done it. That was bad. And it was so bad. It was so bad. It cost her everything. And it was in that moment, the very first moment, a woman's natural appetite to know more, her natural appetite to fill a hunger with a delicious piece of food sitting right there in front of her, tempting her. In that moment, her natural appetite was called dangerous. Her curiosity was called sin. Her desire was something to be ashamed of and controlled and hidden. And she covered herself and she hid and she felt shame. The first thing she did was hide her beautiful body. So that's where it started. That is the original patterning. And whether you're religious or not, whether you take that story literally or as a metaphor, it's that narrative, we all know it, that has been shaping how women relate to their bodies, their hunger, and their worth ever since. Ever since. And so here's the kicker. You didn't get to choose this pattern, right? You had nothing to do with that story. But you've been paying the price ever since because you inherited it. Your mother didn't choose it either. Neither did her mother or hers. Generation after generation, women were handed a very specific set of rules about what it meant to be a good woman. Be small, be quiet, don't take up too much space, put everyone else first, control your appetites, your physical appetite, your emotional appetite, your sexual appetite, your creative appetite. Earn your worthiness, perform your role. Good daughter. Good wife, good mother, good girl. And if you deviated from those rules, from those responsibilities, shame, anxiety, the feeling that you were fundamentally too much, you wanted too much, or you weren't enough, or maybe you were even both at the same time. And you absorbed this, not from a book, but from the air in your house. It's stored in your nervous system forevermore. And you've watched your mother shrink herself, and your best friend shrink herself, and your sister shrink herself, and your daughters shrink themselves. All from being told your feelings were inconvenient, wrong. From learning so early that love was conditional based on your behavior and your physical appearance. And that, my friends, that's ancestral patterning. And it lives in your nervous system. It runs in the background of every decision you make, including every decision you make about food. The original sin was about food. So let me reframe something for you. Emotional eating, it's not weakness. It's not lack of discipline. It's not a character flaw. It's not a moral failing. It's not proof that you're broken or that you can't be trusted around a plate of food. Emotional eating is actually a survival skill. And when you're living inside a role that is not authentically you, the good girl, the selfless one, the one who holds it all together, who denies the hunger, the curiosity, your true self still needs to be fed somehow. And if she can't speak, if she can't ask for what she actually needs, if her hunger has been labeled dangerous since the beginning of time, well, she finds another way. So the cookie isn't about the cookie. The late night eating, it's not about the hunger. The binge after a hard day, it's not about the food. It's your authentic self trying to get nourished in the only way that hasn't been taken away from her yet. In the one way it still has complete control. And I know because at 303 pounds, I was doing exactly that for a very long time. I was feeding every version of myself that I wasn't allowed to be in any other moment. And so I thought I had a food problem, but I didn't. I had a worthiness problem. I had an authenticity problem. I had an ancestral problem, but I didn't have a food problem. I was living so far outside of who I actually was, stuffed into roles and patterns that were never mine to begin with, that my body was screaming the only way it knew how. It was trying to make sense and gain some control the only way it knew how. And so, what are these roles? Let me name some of them for you because you might recognize yourself. We've got the caretaker. She's the one whose worth is entirely tied to what she does for others. She can't rest without guilt. She feeds everyone else and forgets to feed herself, literally and figuratively. And she denies, and puts everybody else's needs ahead of her own. And then we've got the people pleaser. And she learned that conflict meant loss of love. She says yes when she really means no. She has no idea what she actually wants anymore because she's been asking everyone else what they need for so long. And then we've got the good girl. And she keeps her feelings nice and tidy. She doesn't take up space. She plays small. She doesn't ask to be seen. She performs like she's content even when she's drowning. And the invisible one. Well, she discovered early that being seen was risky. She made herself smaller to stay safe. She wears her weight sometimes as armor and then other times as an apology. These aren't just personality types. These are literal survival adaptations. And they're exhausting. They're exhausting to maintain. And so all that anxiety you feel, that low hum of not enoughness, that constant vigilance, that restlessness, Well, that's your nervous system running the bill for how long you've been performing instead of being. And so this channel is called the Eden Shift for a reason. And it's not because I want to go back to the garden, but because I want to go back to before the shame story that the garden represents. Before your hunger was called dangerous, before your desires were something to control, before you were handed a role and told your worth depended on how well you played it. So the Eden shift is this. What if you were enough without ever having to do anything to earn it? Just being you, just showing up authentically. What if your appetite for food, for life, for becoming who you actually are was never actually the problem? What if the weight is not the issue, but the evidence? The evidence that somewhere along the way, you stopped being able to live as yourself. And your body's been trying to tell you that every single day. That's what I had to learn. That losing 175 pounds wasn't about what I ate. It was about who I was finally willing to become. The woman I was before the world told me who I was supposed to be. And then when I found her, when I came back to her, the weight shifted with her. So if you've been starting over your whole life, if every diet has worked for a little while and then fallen apart, I want you to consider that maybe, just maybe, the diet was never the problem. Maybe the programming you're running is just older than the diet. It's more ancient and it's quieter. And it goes all the way back. It goes to day one. It starts with Eve. It starts in a garden called Eden. And you don't fix that with a meal plan. You fix it by going back to where the story started and deciding you're going to write a new one, a different one, the real one, the one where there is no shame, where curiosity is rewarded, where hunger is not the enemy, and food is your friend. And that's what we do here. So drop a comment and tell us, which role do you recognize in yourself? Is it the caretaker, the good girl, the invisible one? I want to know. We all want to know, because naming it is the first step to releasing it. And if this landed somewhere real for you, share it. There's a woman in your life who needs to hear this today. And I would appreciate a subscribe, a thumbs up. It just helps the algorithm find the women that need this message. And until I see you on the next one, remember, you've got this.